Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly discussion series that's hosted by the Chaldean Cultural Center in collaboration with U of M Detroit Center, Unique Voices in Films, and CMN TV. I'm your host, Wiam Nemu, and my guest today is Dunya Mikhail. Welcome, Dunya.
Welcome. Thank you.
It's nice to have you. So, Dunya is an Iraqi American poet and writer. She is the author of the poetry collections War Works Hard, Diary of a Wave Outside the Sea, the Iraqi Nights, and In Her Feminine Sign. Tablets, Secrets of the Clay is her most recent publication, and it was adapted by UNESCO as a section of it is adapted by UNESCO as a sticker. So, Dunya, you've won numerous awards over the years. Your poetry is incredible, as anybody who has read it knows. And thank you so much for making the time to join us today. I, a lot of people know your background story, but some of our newer audiences might not. If you can just share with us a little bit of your background of being born in Baghdad, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Wiam, for having me. Hello to everyone. My background now, these days, like maybe like in a couple of 3 months, my life will be really, I can say I am, what we call it, bilingual or by that dash I have Iraqi American because it's be exactly half of my life I spent in Iraq, Baghdad, and half exactly now, shortly, is going to be here in America, in Detroit. So I came after I, finished college and after, worked for the Baghdad Observer, and I came here, continued my study and um, my work and my writing.
And you were a journalist, right? In Iraq, you were
Yeah.
a poet and a journalist. Yeah. So you were involved in writing long before you came here. And obviously, when you arrived, you continued your writing. But let's start first with your newest publication. What inspired you to create Tablet Secrets of the Clay?
It is inspired by ancient Sumerian tablets. Those were the first communication in history, the first, human expression, that, if you will. And those clay tablets were kind of, that time they were the means for not only for communication, but recording emotions, stories, and the human condition. And I wanted to reimagine that ancient language and bring it into our contemporary world. So I'm not only inspired by those tablets themselves, but even by the cracks in those ancient tablets. These cracks, um, to me, are symbols of resilience and survival, which is like our human spirit.
Yeah, and especially in regards to, I think, the Iraqi American spirit, the Iraqi spirit, which has a history of thousands and thousands of years old. So, and in poetry and drawings in this book.
Yeah, by the way, and these drawings are not, like illustrations. Please don't call them illustrations. They integrate. Yeah, no, they are part of the poems themselves, and they integrate the Arabic originals, of the poems into their design, and with this layered translation, from Arabic to English, and then from word to image. But my first experience doing this, this type of, combining text and image, was during my childhood in Baghdad, over the roof of our house where I would sleep during those summer nights, hot summer nights, with my grandmother, who my grandmother was telling me she was the one who was telling me bedtime stories. And I was fascinated by those stories. So when I asked her if there was a book that I read these stories myself over and over, she said these were, narrated from generation to generation, and that there was no such book. So one day I found myself trying to write those. I had a notebook and I was writing those stories, reflections, and I was drawing them. So that was that time I didn't even know what is art, what is translation. And yes, I say translation because I was writing, I was listening to these stories in Aramaic. That was the language of our home, but our Chaldean, as they call it now. But I was writing them in Arabic, which was the language of my schooling. So this tablet Secrets of the Clay is a continuation, I think, of that childhood practice, which is a blend of writing, drawing, translating, and so that was that connects us probably to that timeless ancient Sumerian wisdom with this everyday life of today.
So, men, speaking about your stories, so Dunya and I sometimes end up meeting at we end up seeing each other at the gym, and we don't know when we're going to see each other. But when I see her there, I'm so happy because I know that when she's going to share her stories, the time is going to go a lot faster on the treadmill. And her stories, when I hear them, I I mean, when you speak about your grandmother and a lot of the incidences, especially the ones that happened in Iraq, but there are quite a few humorous ones here as well. And I'm so intrigued, and I think we've talked about this for years about I know that we're interviewing about this particular book, but because you're sharing about your grandmother, and I know that over the years I was so interested in these stories, and then you were saying to me that there were a lot of people when they hear them, uh, what you had gone through, that also have that same interest. Are you planning to kind of collect these stories and do something with them so that more people can read them and enjoy these stories?
I am working. It's been taking so long now. This project of memoir with having these types of anecdotes and from Baghdad and here. I'm working on it. It's my current work now.
Yeah, it's really even now when you're talking, but you have shared them through your poetry in the past and in little bits and pieces, but as in poetry, of course, it just you give us a little bit of a taste of it, and it's not as you know, it's not as extensive. Um so we if you could read to us a few of the poems that you have in your book, that would be amazing. If you could do that for us, please.
Yes, of course. Like a dozen of them. They are short sections, so maybe a
The
dozen of.
more the merrier.
And by the way, I wish I could, show the images with them, but like it's hard to see from here. Like, just an example, like so. These are the sample images that go with these writings. But
How many images, Dunya, do you
so
how
with
many?
each one, so there are 10 tablets in the book. Each tablet is 24 sections. So I guess 240 images with 240 pieces. Of,
Really? I wasn't aware it was that. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay. Yeah, please read for us. And then I'm just going to mute myself and
okay. Well, without numbers, I'll just read, the short pieces, some 12 of them. My paper boat that drifted into the river with the world behind it carried a special note. It may arrive one day, although late, as all truths come late. She recites a list of wishes to keep him from dying. The truth lands like a kiss, sometimes like a mosquito, sometimes like a lantern. All children are poets until they stop reaching for butterflies that are not there. My flower will not wither, it's drawn in my notebook. I'm the plural who walks to you in the singular. When I miss my friends, I find them in the tree leaves. I see their hands waving from swaying branches. In my old city, when someone dies, they bring a happy word with them to keep them company in the grave. War after war, the happy words were used up. I smuggled one out. Imagination. The emptied houses exchanged looks with the departed who kept looking back. A bullet, then a siren, then ruins, then a bird song telling the truth. Every drop of water is a different memory of a river crossed by those we know and don't know. Some who have died, we hide behind our eyes. Some who are living, we hide to keep alive. Some who are friends, bring over the tigress in a cup of tea. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dunya. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
And with that, I want to share additional information about your work. So your nonfiction book, The Beekeeper, was finalist for National Book Award. Your debut novel, The Bird Tattoo, was shortlisted for the International Prize for Arabic Fiction. You're a laureate of the UNESCO Sharja Prize for Arab Culture, and you've received UN Human Rights Award for Freedom of Writing, as well as a fellowship from the United States Artists, the Guggenheim Foundation, and the Kresge Foundation. And I share this, and I shared it a little bit later because I want to see the connection that, as a writer, how you feel that literature helps foster understanding and promotes human rights.
Um, yeah, good question. I need to think about it. It is, it has literature and art has a unique ability to humanize and build empathy. So, this
Okay, it looks like we lost Dunya for a second. I'm sure she'll try to jump back in. Okay, sorry about that. She's gonna, Dunya Mikhail is gonna be logging back in and to share what she was trying to say about how art and literature help with regards to human art. There she is.
sorry, I don't know what
Oh
happened.
no, that's
Yeah,
okay. That's
and
okay.
I
'Cause
was talking,
you were
and
about to say something.
I was talking to myself then.
You were about to say something very important, and that's when you dropped off, right? It was very suspenseful for us here.
Was I
Okay,
talking about how poetry? You asked me about. So
right.
talking about poetry, how it can, it's an own way break through the barriers, whether they
Yeah,
are political or
and
linguistic,
yeah, contributing
cultural,
to
and
humanity. Correct.
right. So it has its own way of is able to do that. It challenges those stereotypes. Hello, yes.
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. Yeah, and then let's now look into your writing life. and your writing routine. I know you're fairly busy. You also teach at Oakland University. And for the writers out there who are trying to either break into this field, or maybe they are already established writers, but one of the tasks that we even discuss oftentimes is the difficulty of trying to balance work with writing. What is your writing routine? Because you're fairly prolific for somebody who does quite a bit. You have a family of your own and you have a lot of responsibilities outside of work. And so, what is your writing routine? And what advice would you give writers that are either trying to break into this, to get their book out, maybe, or to have a more balanced work and writing life?
Mm. Yeah, my routine is flexible. I kind of use the time I have, but usually I find that mornings, not early mornings, but late mornings, are fruitful for my writing. Like with the coffee time around this time that we're talking now.
I hope we're not stealing the time away.
No, this is a good stealing. Then
Okay.
sometimes I do need to talk to be with people that share like similar concerns and interests, so that I get recharged and go back. We writers, I say we are like whales. We go deep in the water. I don't know what we try find there, and maybe not find anything, but just like that's our world. And then when we come up for a moment, we need that, and then we go back. So that's the moment I breathe. I come up, and then before I go back to my weird world. But yeah, so I don't have really. So that's my best time of. I find myself function the best, not early morning, but late morning. And yeah, and I see also, you said that we also walking helps me. Sometimes walking helps me find, some solutions for creative problems. I'm not good with advices. I don't know what advices I give, but of course, reading. Sometimes when what they call writer's block, I think when we find ourselves, kind of not able to write, I think that's the time for reading. Maybe we need to read before we go back to writing.
Well, I think in your case, you're such a natural writer that it's like there's no question about making that time. It's when you're saying you're being flexible, is just part of your life, no matter, even if it stops for a little while, or it's if you're more productive certain times or if you're less productive, it doesn't stop you from being a writer. And it seems as just sometimes people put that pressure on themselves to think that as a writer they have to perform in a certain way to be productive. And that pressure, I think, is what creates the writing block. And in your case, there's just you knowing that you're a writer, that you're a poet. It's just such a natural part of you that there's no question that you're going to be working on the next book. That's how it feels to me when we talk, is that you just already know that it's like a decision that was integrated from whenever you started in this field.
It is essential part of me, maybe as is from for you. That is, I feel I am myself the most when I am with writing, with literature, with art. It is it looks like I'm not good with other things in life, not that much good. Like, that's my true myself when I'm
Well,
with.
other people might might protest to that. I mean, you have a lot of good things going on, but I know that this is really your passion. And but in that, have you what challenges would you say then in that case you have faced, either in the past or currently with the situation as a writer, as you have evolved over the years?
Well, in the beginning, the big challenge was when I was in Iraq was there was censorship, and but that challenge really was turned into opportunity. I don't want to speak like self-help book, but it was turned into opportunity. I tell you why, because how we as a writer, I wanted to be understood by by readers, by the true readers, but not by censors. And so I was using a lot of metaphors. And I'm saying opportunity because those metaphors were good, I think, for my poetry. So that's the way, not only me, other writers, that's how we, um, how we solved it with these metaphors. We were talking all in metaphors. So so that is, and then here the challenge became not that, but I had to work, sometimes long hours, especially in the beginning when I came to the country. I started from zero, and I was studying and working and everything. So it was the challenge was the time to kind of how to find more than 24 hours a day. That was the challenge, I think. But that's part of life, I think. It's not everybody try to find more than 24 hours a day, I think.
Yeah, it's at least something that you can address, whereas the censorship was something very almost, it's kind of dangerous too when you're in a country where if you say certain things or something, it can really, and this is why we also have talked about this before for myself as well. We find that like the First Amendment, the freedom of speech is so important. I think all writers feel that because you don't want to be censored. You want to be able to express yourself. And we understand the power of not being able to do that, where we came from. Um, so, Mike, with you, I know that you went to Iraq since you left, but I think it was a short visit. When was the last time that you visited Iraq, and what was the reason? I think it had to do with one of your books.
Yes, yes. After about 20 years of not going back, I went only one time for when I was writing The Beekeeper, Rescuing the Stolen Woman of Iraq. It was a non-fiction book, and it was based on stories of women who escaped ISIS. They escaped, and they had fascinating stories. And after listening to their stories and to the beekeeper who was helping them escape for about 1 year over the phone, I decided to go and meet them in person. So that's when the only time I went was then. The 2016 was that visit, I think.
And I believe that was your first nonfiction book, correct? We're mostly focusing on poetry prior to that.
Right, right. That's my only nonfiction, and I have only one nonfiction and one fiction. The rest is all poetry.
Mhm. But you were a journalist in the past, so you were able to probably draw from that in order, to write The Beekeeper. I'm curious. I mean, this is a really, it was an excellent story, especially because it is a true life. Just even the title in itself, The Beekeeper, and you take us into the life of the beekeeper and the work that he has done. I've sometimes thought of this. I haven't asked you about it though, but have you stayed in contact with the beekeeper or any of the women who were rescued over the time?
Yeah, the beekeeper became one of my best friends. He's a wonderful person, and until now we check on each other's. I give him calls and he gives me calls, and we talk. And he is, he went back to Sinjar. Yeah, his home was in ruins, but still, I could the beekeeper book is. I could write maybe five more, at least, books after it of these fascinating stories he tells me every time, and that what these, for example, the pictures, the album of pictures he found there in his home, and how even these were scattered, the pictures, and the bees, and I mean, there's so much. I would say there's so much poetry. If I don't mean it in to be, I don't mean to be rude. I mean, it's not like saying, I mean, I don't mean when I say beauty, I don't mean beauty in this, but kind of it's the way it's so profound. Let me say this pain that they went through. Um, It's
It really needs, we also have talked about this, but I hope that it's made into a movie one day, because I think it's such a heroic story. And you capture, so it's not just the heroism of who what he did, but all these different individual women and what they had to endure. And sometimes it seems like it's a long time ago, but it really isn't. There's a lot of these situations that are recurring, and the women, there's a lot that I follow when they still, the wounds are still a part of them. And this is an important part of history. But I think in your case, because you bring it in through a story and through I don't know. Again, like you, I don't want to use the wrong, I don't want to say a happy ending, but it is for them. It was a happy ending for that situation. So it's not just focusing on their misfortune and what they endured, but it's also showing the human spirit. And I think which he represented. That is why, in my case, I find it to be a beautiful and a powerful story. And
yeah, the kindness there. It is that it's this in the all this cruelty, like we humans, how much cruelty we can do to each other, and how much kindness we can also show to each other at the same time. So we
yes,
as
exactly, exactly. So it takes it attention rather than just looking at something and feeling bad and helpless about it. He exemplifies of what he took action, and his action mattered. And so that helps you not feel like you're just standing there idle or powerless in what you can do. And this beekeeper was able to do this, and not only for himself, and not only for the women, but also the fact that it drew the attention of the world when we were able to all share in it and read it. And I do hope that it reaches a larger audience. I think it's still relevant, even though I believe you published it at least like 4 or 5 years ago or more. But the story is very relevant. So beautiful, beautiful story. You mentioned that you're now working. I was going to ask you, what I kind of pushed that question earlier about working on a memoir. Is that what you're working on next?
yes, I mean this has been like it's taking this started a long time ago, and it's becoming experimental, I think, because every time I change my mind about the form of it. And I'm now I think it's the project now that I when I wake up in the morning I'm excited. So I like it when I have something like that makes me look forward to when I wake up in the morning.
So we're getting closer to it somehow or another. We just don't know when, but it's getting there.
It takes, yeah. I'm slow in writing because I'm bad with that. Like, so I change my mind and I make changes, and but
And
but
then
I am I always said these whales now. I mean, I'm deep now in it. I'm a
okay,
deep.
so everybody watching, especially writers, she's claiming that she's slow in the process and all this kind of stuff, and yet she's very, very productive. So it's a great message, Dunya, right? Without even having to say what the message is, but really, you can take your time and you can really not feel the pressures, but yet you can enjoy being a writer. We only have a couple of minutes, actually 1 minute left. Is there anything, last words that you want to share with us?
You know, you mentioned tablet secrets of the clay, and you mentioned, thank you, that it was. I was so happy that I was excited that the UNESCO, adopted one of the sections. So why don't I just end with this section? It's very small. It's just few words. The section they adopted as a sticker says this: "Let love be the new world order."
I'm into that. I think everybody would vote for that, Dunya, for sure.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And
Thank you.
that was very deserving to be a sticker for all of us, actually. I guess you can create your sticker now, Dunya, for people to purchase. I think that's lovely. I think it represents who you are. I mean, ever since we've met, I was thinking about it yesterday as I was preparing the questions, and we've known each other for almost 20 years now. You know that?
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Wow, it's been a while, and
Mhm.
you've been who you are, which is, as a writer, as a friend, as a human being, in general. So thank you for being very beautiful and adding beauty to the world. Thank you, Dunya.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.
Bye.